Hey, soulmates, welcome to the conversation as we work our way down to Easter weekend. A lot of folks like to say Resurrection weekend. It is Thursday. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Brandon Hudson in for Nicolai Corte. We're here to bring you the stories that impact our people the most.
Yeah, it's our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our big conversation for the day.
Yep.
A jury awarded more than $8 million to a mother and her two daughters in a case their attorneys say Alameda County Sheriff's deputies unlawfully searched and detained them while sitting in a Starbucks parking lot. Our friends at KTVU in Oakland have the story.
What are you guys doing here?
Waiting to go to Starbucks in a second. Why? Is there a problem? I can't sit here?
Well, actually, let me tell you why I'm here. Okay? I've been having auto break-ins in this parking lot every morning around this time.
Aceli Lagervale and her two daughters were sitting in a rented Cadillac outside this Castro Valley Starbucks when Alameda County Sheriff's deputies, concerned about car burglaries, zeroed in on them, demanding the mom's ID.
What's that about? What did I do? What kind of crime did I commit?
The deputy doesn't answer, so she refuses.
You have to give me your ID.
Why do I have to give you my ID?
Why?
I don't have to give you my ID because I haven't did anything.
Lagervale's attorney says it's the first violation of her constitutional rights.
They can ask. They can always ask, but you don't have to give it to them, and they can only demand it if they have reasonable suspicion to believe that you've committed a crime.
They don't want to listen to us, so let's go ahead and detain these two.
But then things escalate.
Get out of the car.
I'll get out. Just don't pull on me. I'll get out.
Tell me what I'm detained for.
All three are put in handcuffs.
You're being detained.
For what?
Put your hand behind your back or you're going to go to jail.
No, I'm not going to jail. And you're not going to.
And for more than an hour held in the back of a police cruiser.
Ridiculous. I just told them I have to use the restroom.
The car and all of their belongings was searched without their consent, finding nothing to suggest any crimes and prompting a civil lawsuit alleging they were unlawfully stopped and searched, falsely arrested, and their privacy invaded because they're black.
I think that this same scenario happened and these were white women. I think it all plays out very differently.
A federal jury agreed, deliberating for 2 days and returning an $8.25 million verdict. The Lagervale's lawyer says the sheriff's office did an internal affairs investigation that said the two deputies did nothing wrong, and both have since been promoted.
Wow. Two different sides of the fence here. I mean, you really feel for that mother and her daughters, and it's good that they were able to get, some sort of compensation. It doesn't erase the trauma.
You can hear the trauma
Yeah,
as they're
that
sitting in
they
the back of the cruiser.
have gone through there and will continue to go through probably for the rest of their natural lives. But to see those officers just say, I don't think we did anything wrong. Again, it looks into that culture, that blue culture, that these conversations need to be had. Yeah. And I think the attorney for the families brought up a very interesting point. The police can ask for your ID, but you don't have to give it to them. And I think a lot of people need to understand what they can and cannot do, or what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Always something to learn there. But to add insult to injury, the department found that they did nothing wrong. You're looking at that video. You looked at the body cam looked like, and determined that nothing was wrong. And on top of that, you promoted these two. We got to move on because I'm about to start boiling. I remember when this broke, and I'm just about to start boiling. So hopefully the money will help. Like, really?
All right, so look, lawmakers on Capitol Hill, they're proposing a new no-fly list for unruly airplane passengers. Several industry unions pushed for the idea last year, but it failed to gain traction. Now, if this is eventually signed into law, the TSA would be allowed to ban anyone convicted or fined for assaulting or interfering with airline crew members. Now, under this proposal, convicted passengers would also be banned from the TSA's pre-check or border protection global entry programs. This list is separate, or would be separate, from the terror-related no-fly list. The Federal Aviation Administration says that there were nearly 2,500 reports of unruly passengers on flights last year, and this is a problem that took off, no pun intended, during the pandemic or right before the pandemic. Look, I get it, and I've said this before. I think before you get into any sort of an argument or a confrontation with someone, you have to understand that maybe what has got them over the edge is something that happened in their life.
Yeah.
So before, before you get mad with somebody else, let's just take into some perspective here, and let cooler heads prevail.
But if you and I are on a flight, and let's say I'm the aggravator, I started it, and we get into it, even as the innocent party, you're going too, because you're going to be deemed as, unruly or, someone who has disrupted the flight. And they just, no matter who's at fault, they're going to put everybody off to, bring about peace and maintain the order on that flight, and then deal with, he say, she say, or she say, or he say later. But, if you get into it on a flight, even if you're justified, and I know folks around here are nuts, and they all kinds of craziness coming out of their mouth. There was a recent story where a young black man was defending his mother because somebody rushed by his elderly mother and pushed her, and they sort of got into it. Totally justified in my opinion, but you are also going to be asked to leave that flight if you get into it.
Hopefully this is a way to make people understand, there are some serious consequences here.
Yeah.
If you do not, just be a model passenger, and if you are unruly, you got some serious consequences that you're facing.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, Amazon wants us to think twice before you click buy. The retailer now flagging frequently returned products. When you click on a product with the flag, it encourages you to check the product details and customer reviews to learn more about the item. This comes as Amazon deals with shaky finances and an uncertain future. Industry-wide returns skyrocketed during the pandemic. That number has since come down a bit, but they're still well above pre-pandemic numbers, so they're trying to minimize this thing. I don't know about you, soulmates, but I click everything. I look through the reviews. A lot of times customers, show pictures of the packaging, how it came, what it looks like, especially if it's clothing. I look through all of that.
This is another way to be careful with your money.
That's right.
Because I know there are people out there that will maybe get a drink or two, and they be under the influence, and they'll go like, click. I like this on Amazon, I like this, and then they get the gifts or get whatever packages they get, and they're like, I didn't want to get this. So this is just a way to be careful, because when you return stuff, the company then takes it in, and there's a whole another process that we never have to deal with. Isn't
it crazy how much Amazon has become a part of our normal day-to-day?
Yes.
That they could be facing some kind of financial difficulty. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that, because folks use Amazon, and
all
I'm
the
like,
time.
What financial issues? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
All right, so identical twins, Alyssa and Brittany, they are the first black women promoted to feeder on-road supervisors at UPS's fourth largest facility in the world.
In less than 2 years at UPS,
these trailblazing twins do more than drive trucks. Alyssa and Brittany Strickland have shared a womb and plenty of basketball courts while playing for Alabama A&M.
Nobody's better than the other, so put that there.
Is that the same with trucking too?
Yeah.
They both have 4-year-olds, and now, coincidentally, the Clayton County sisters are the first black women promoted to feeder on-road supervisors in Georgia's UPS facility. In other words, they have the important task of training people to safely maneuver the largest trucks on the road.
What's your quote? If you fail, I fail. So my job is to make sure that you be successful and that you become a safe driver.
It all started when Alyssa, who once taught high school science, grew bored of being a stay-at-home mom.
My brother-in-law, he was like, hey, UPS is hiring people with degrees. You could do that, part-time. Do that the morning shift. Your son be asleep, you come home, and you get to spend the whole day with him.
Then Brittany, who worked for DeKalb County Watershed, saw the perks.
The biggest thing for me is when I got into the department, they talked about how on-road soups were looked as the elite and the best of the best.
There are 40 women drivers at this UPS facility, of 439 total. Census and jobs report data shows nationwide, men make up 84% of the industry.
More women should be aware of this industry and aware that they can do the job and that it's possible.
In less than 2 years, the twins have had a meteoric rise to management, and they say under their leadership, more women will do the same.
We love it. In less than 2
twins.
years, right? In less than 2 years at UPS, the twins rose to management positions and have become an inspiration for other women in operations such as that. And let me tell you something. They look like they are not to be played with. Don't you call in tardy or don't show up to work. You're going to have some repercussions and consequences. Beautiful as they are, I got to feel that they don't play.
They will slam dunk you if you slip up.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just wrapping up Women's History Month, but this just shows, like Black History Month, women making history, making strides, and opening up doors and creating legacies is a year-long, 365, effort. And so, FOXSOUL's Black Report, we're going to continue to highlight, Black excellence, what women are doing, what all the soulmates are doing, because it really just isn't, we know we allocate it for one particular month, but we know, what we do is all year, all day, 24/7.
And may they continue to blaze a trail for other people.
That's right.
Who follow up and follow their footsteps.
Mm-hmm. Coming up, we look at how cardiovascular disease is impacting women, and Black women in particular.
Yeah, we're going to have more on why Black women are at a higher risk, and that is next.
You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. Potty trained.
All right, welcome back, soulmates, to FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Brandon Hudson in for Nicolai Corte. And despite evolving technology and growing advancements in medicine, a new report by the CDC highlights a very troubling trend.
Yeah, in 2021, there was a significant rise in maternal mortality in the U.S. Of note, while the number of maternal deaths increased across the board, Black women experienced maternal mortality at a rate 2.6 times higher than non-Hispanic white women. But there's a way to prevent this tragic epidemic.
What can an image tell us about love? Art expressing the pain of processing grief and the pure joy of creating new life.
There's something about art that words just can't express.
The paintings are all the work of Omari Maynard, a project that started with a portrait and tribute to his late partner, Shamani Gibson. It's part of a foundation he created called the Araya Foundation, which stands for Advancement of Reproductive Innovation Through Artistry and Healing.
It allows for me, through the art, to be able to tell the stories of these women, because that's something that you don't hear about.
Women of color whose lives were cut short due to birth inequities and reproductive injustice in the United States, including Shamani Gibson, who passed away 2 weeks after giving birth by C-section in 2019.
Shamani passed giving birth to our second child, Kari. She passed 13 days after he was born. And she passed from a pulmonary embolism.
Maynard says when EMTs arrived at their home, he didn't think their initial questions were relevant.
The questions that kept arising was she on any drugs? Is she on any drugs?
And he says changes to their Brooklyn neighborhood also resulted in a lack of resources at the local hospital.
They didn't have any of the tools, they didn't have the personnel.
In the U.S., a recent study from the CDC found Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. The report stating clearly, factors range from disparities in the quality of health care to underlying conditions, racism, and implicit bias.
This is a child that's not going to have a mother. This is a father that's going to raise a child by himself. This is a family that is trying to celebrate the birth of a child at the same time, burying their mother.
Errol Pierre is Senior Vice President at Health First.
Health First was started in 1993, really focused on making sure underrepresented, low-income patients get access to high-quality care without any barriers.
The New York-based nonprofit insurance company working on getting correct stats for the maternal death rates in the city, trying to help improve the problem.
Access is the biggest issue, so that they can get in to see a doctor, and a doctor that speaks your language and understands you culturally, and is really going to take care of you and make sure that you're getting the care that you need.
Dan Bowens, Fox 5 News.
Our thanks to our Fox 5
Yes.
family for that. You know, look, we've talked, you and I have had this conversation about, you know, the rates here and how scary it is to have a baby here in the States.
Yes.
You know, you think we're talking about third world nations, but we are talking about right here in the United States of America, and we have some work to do. And in particular with Black women and our maternal health and how dismissed we've been. We are suffering unnecessary losses because we're not being heard or taken seriously.
Yep.
Serena Williams was very open and sharing her story about how she had to, you know, tell these doctors something is not right. And so there is a lot of work to do, but we appreciate efforts like this.
You know, a few years ago, I had to work on a story about, you know, healthcare in the Black community. And one of the things that the doctor spoke about, it was a Black doctor, and she had talked about implicit bias and how implicit bias is still prevalent in our Black communities. And when it comes to, you know, our doctors who are not of color.
That's right.
And so we have to find a way to break down those walls and those stigmas. So the doctors that we get our care from, especially if they are not Black doctors, can understand the troubles that we're going through and that sometimes we are listening to our bodies and seeing the signs, but they're being ignored by the people who we're trusting to care for us.
Right. So Brandon, let's move into, you know, some solutions and solution-based conversation. There's a community that's doing something about Black maternal mortality.
Yeah, so here's how an organization in North Philadelphia is helping Black moms with resources that they might not have known have been available.
The common theme here is community, making these wonderful expected mothers, current mothers, dads, everybody feel like they can get through this wonderful journey, and doing that by giving them actual physical resources like these bags that they can take home and the information that they need to go through this journey. All these booths and people running them are geared towards making life easier for mothers.
Give us the resources that we might not have or have access to or even know about. And also just give us a day of relaxation and, you know, get to meet other mothers, midwives, doulas.
Unfortunately, the United States has become the leader in maternal mortality rates, and organizers like LaToya Dennis are working to change that.
We're certifying doulas, so if they're interested in becoming a doula, we'd love to certify doulas in Philly and every other city that we go to, but it's critically important for us to save lives, and our initiatives is for Black, American Indian, and Alaskan Native moms.
The event is a full day with guest speakers, resource booths, health screenings, and some pampering and fun in the form of mocktails and fun, relaxing spaces for moms and dads.
We even have a respite room, which is really heightening awareness around mental health, particularly PMAD, perinatal and postpartum mood and anxiety disorder. What we're here to do today is to elevate.
This is the second time Enon Tabernacle Church has held a Black Maternal Health Summit.
Our women suffer because of bad diagnosis, because of the disparities that exist anyhow within the medical experience. And so it's just important that we focus on our children and our mothers.
With a hope that every mom is able to deliver and raise their child in a happy and healthy way so every mother can enjoy the experience.
Once I see my baby come out and hear her cry, and I was just like, this is God. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is amazing.
If you didn't make it out today, but you want to learn more about these wonderful resources that are available, head over to fox29.com.
Yeah, so the answers, solutions, options being, you know, presented to those folks in that area when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, you know, Philly has always been on the forefront, and
you
I
worked
say
in
this from
Philly.
experience. Yeah, they've always been on the forefront on listening to the Black community and finding ways to work and help people in the community out there. And I think that goes back to even, you know, before George Floyd, and because like Detroit, they are a predominantly Black city. They, at least the Black community, takes care of the people who are in the lower income areas.
Going back to the, you know, maternal parenthood aspect of it, you've got 3 under the age of 4. Did you and your wife experience anything, you know, as far as bias was concerned? Did you experience anything that kind of threw you off in the midst of your, you know, your pregnancy journey, or do you think that your care was sound and effective?
All right, so I'll share this. And my wife and I, we have this conversation all the time because we look at stories like this and we talk about how fortunate we always are because my wife and our doctor, her primary care doctor, her OBGYN, was a white doctor, a white woman. But she listened to my wife each and every step of the way, especially when she had her twins. We had our twins, and there was a situation where we had to go with a high-risk doctor, and around 20 weeks, we had the high-risk doctor come in, and she had this look on her face like, I don't know if they were gonna make it. And so we were concerned. And so what they did was they sent us across the street to one of the competing hospitals. And they said, hey, look, there's a surgical procedure that should help. It's an experiment, but we just want to see. And they were so caring and so helpful along every step of the way. Now, our youngest, the singleton who we had really virtually no problems. But with the twins, we were just talking about how fortunate we are that our doctor and really her doctor really listened to her and made sure that she was cared for, even and not even just in the hospital or the doctor's offices, but even at work. When they're like, hey, look, you need bed rest, she's like, I got you. And it goes a long way, and we hope that there are more doctors, and I know there are, but we just hope that more doctors can follow suit.
It's good that you and your wife felt heard, respected, and taken care of, and that you mattered in your journey. That's a beautiful
But now
story.
the next step is to help those who don't feel heard.
Yeah, and to help you get some rest. I know you have a great support team here.
Yes, oh for sure. That's why we moved to Detroit.
3 babies under 4 years old. I don't even know how you here.
Hey,
I don't know how
by
you
the grace
here.
of God.
You
by
are
the
a
grace of God,
Superman.
I'm here.
I know that's right.
All right, so look, let's talk about an important recall that is affecting thousands of bottles of hand sanitizer. The FDA says that certain bottles of sanitizer made by Jarman's Midwest Cleaning Systems contain a dangerous amount of methanol. The recall specifically covers the company's 80% and 75% topical solution sanitizers. So if you have it in your home, throw it away now. Excuse me, you can contact Jarman's to request a refund.
So you're going to kill yourself, kill the germs and yourself.
Right. And this is something that, this is one of those practices that we picked up from the pandemic. Having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a jar of sanitizer in every room, bathroom. Pretty much. It is not within, it was within eyesight in our house.
It was a habit that I'm hoping those who didn't have it prior to the pandemic would catch it and then keep it. And it would become just like a habitual in nature for them. Because even before the pandemic, I'm gonna have wipes in my purse. I have spray when you go to the restaurant or when you come out. Sometimes you have the lever that'll open up the door, but sometimes you gotta touch that thing and there's no paper towel around. And so I'm not germophobic in a sense, but I've always been very conscious and aware of that. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, y'all wasn't washing your hands, regularly. You weren't using wipes in the first place. You weren't wiping off the shopping cart in the first place. I know I was.
It's funny because before the pandemic, you would look at people who would get sanitizer after shaking somebody's hand, and maybe you get low key offended, like I can't believe they
did that.
They did that after shaking my hand. Now it is like it is commonplace, and I remember. Right before we got to the point where we were locking down everything, and we would see people walking around with not just masks, but gloves out in public, touching our kiosk or touching the street meter to have to pay for parking. Now that is common. You don't even think twice about it. You don't even bat an eye at it.
I'll still do a mask on a plane because I feel like that's really close. Otherwise, if I'm spread out in a store or walking the street, I don't really do a mask as much.
Certain times of year, when it gets close to the holidays or Easter, and I know the stores are going to be crowded, I will wear a mask.
Yeah, that's good. That's smart. All right, meanwhile, cardiovascular disease takes a tremendous toll on American women and Black women in particular.
Yeah, but there are ways to keep the heart healthy and to avoid having a heart attack. Fox's Frankie Thompson has a closer look.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death for women in the United States.
1 in every 3 women will die from cardiovascular disease. And in fact, 1 in every 2 Black women will die from cardiovascular disease.
Dr. Michelle Albert with American Heart Association says heart condition kills more than 50,000 Black women each year, with stroke being the leading cause of their death. Annually, the association dedicates February as the Heart Health Awareness Month to connect with women who are at risk.
Women taking charge of their lives and their heart health, knowing their cholesterol, knowing their blood pressure, knowing their sugar levels.
The question is, why is heart disease targeting this specific population? Doctors say there are risk factors more prevalent in Black people that cause heart failure and attacks.
High blood pressure, hypertension, high blood sugar, diabetes, overweight, obesity, smoking.
Dr. Hailu Tillahan with Virginia Mason Franciscan Health says the heart condition starts with their choice of food and salt intake.
Stress reduction is another thing too, because we know that's something that can increase the likelihood of all these risk factors.
When it comes to treating these health and heart issues in people of color, Tillahan says affordability and access to health care is a factor.
Are there facilities that people can access that can provide that care? And so it can be a challenge depending on socioeconomic issues or not.
To address the disparities in care, Virginia Mason Franciscan Health is piloting its Healthy Hearts program. It partners with faith communities for 16 weeks, teaching members how to self-monitor their blood pressure and discuss results with a nurse. Tillahan says a simple step anyone can do for a healthier heart is change their diet.
Trying to avoid processed food and minimal red meat and more fish and moderate amount of chicken. Regular exercise, that's the recommendation is a minimum of 30 minutes a day, at least 5 times a week.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that story, and it is good to see all that stuff that's happening there. So,
indeed. All right, up next, LeBron James, the billionaire. LeBron James is making moves to help kids for generations to come.
All right, so we're going to tell you the company that is partnering with him to make this initiative come true.
Yeah, you're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Soulmates, we appreciate you so much. We'll be right back.
All right, Soulmates, welcome back to the Fox Soul Black Report. Los Angeles star LeBron James, he continues to give back to his hometown.
Earlier this month, Lebron James Family Foundation announced its partnership with the Starbucks coffee company. A community store will be featured in the foundation's House 330 in Akron, Ohio, run by James's I Promise students, teachers, and parents, and other family members. He always is up to something.
This is why folks love LeBron.
Yeah.
And this is why he is considered one of the greatest of all time, and arguably, depending on who you talk to,
well,
the
I need
greatest
to ask
of all
you.
time. And I say that
I
because
know you're a big buff here.
Because
basketball
of
guy.
the accomplishments that he does, outside of basketball. Now, if we're talking on the court, I still say Michael Jordan.
But two different eras. I feel, why can't they both be the best?
They can be in their respective
my
eras.
opinion. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if you're having that conversation in the barbershop or at the kitchen table or in the living room or in the basement, if you're going on court, Michael Jordan, if you're talking about, all the stuff to the betterment of the community, Michael Jordan has done that stuff too. But LeBron James is
he
really
seems to be a little bit more
carved a niche of
grassroots. I mean,
Yes.
Michael Jordan has done amazing, giving back. But LeBron, I don't know, the way he goes about it seems to be a little bit more grassroots.
It is, and I think the contrast and the difference here is, in Michael's day, we didn't really see or we didn't really talk about the need for
and there wasn't social
young
media.
Black education.
Right.
There was not social media, so we didn't really see the need or have those conversations about Black education in our own communities. For LeBron, he has really been in the forefront because we've talked since then that there is a need, and here we are.
And if you hadn't chosen the anchor desk, you're a pretty tall brother here. Maybe you've been shoulder to shoulder with LeBron. I don't
know about shoulder to shoulder. He's still got some inches on me.
I know, but you got some height going on.
I will say this. Back in high school, freshman year of high school, I went to a small Catholic private high school in Alabama, and I wasn't really good at basketball, but my mom said because she was a former coworker of the high school basketball coach, right after they won the state championship, she goes, if you had just talked to me and told coach, we could have at least got you on the team. You never played, but you could have had a state championship. I could have had 2 state championship rings, but I think also just practicing with the team at the time, I probably learned so much that I probably could have had, some sort of feature in basketball.
No, you're right where you're supposed to be.
God called me right here.
Leading,
so
dashing anchor.
Because I was so bad at basketball, God led me in the direction of being here at the anchor desk with you.
But you love sports.
I do.
You could talk about sports through and through. You just weren't good.
I could. No, I could not.
That's honest.
Yeah.
That's honest.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're good at what you do now, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Fulton County, where the local police department is honoring the Black women who risk their lives every day to keep the community safe. Our good friends at Fox 5. I have good friends at Fox 5. Atlanta have the story. Check it out.
Dozens of people gathered at the Porsche Experience Center for a breakfast with a purpose.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Organizers dedicated the entire event to women making strides.
Today is an opportunity for the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for us to celebrate the women that make up a large part of our Sheriff's Office. And as Beyonce would say, who runs the world? Right? We have past leaders and future leaders. We have really mentors that have helped a new generation of leadership in law enforcement.
Like Tolliver County's sheriff, who's the first woman to hold that position.
I never envisioned myself here, but I'm very thankful that I am here.
At the breakfast, Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt honored Kelly Stewart, co-founder of the Lead Center for Youth, for her dedication to the next generation.
We use baseball to teach them how to overcome 3 curveballs that threaten their success: crime, poverty, and racism.
The office also recognized Major Johnny Ruth Bussey, who in 1970 became Fulton County's first Black female deputy. A beautifully decorated breakfast for some of the Metro's most influential women.
How many the camera got to pull up off that breakfast? I'm ready to go eat something now.
We
call them Coney Island. You can get a Coney Island breakfast. Look, I know we wrapped up Women's History Month, but again, Women's History, much like Black History Month,
365 days a year,
24/7.
Yeah.
As we see here.
No, it is great to see, especially the women in law enforcement, because it seems like every single story that we've talked about lately about law enforcement deals with the negative side of the culture. So to see women appreciated, especially and those who are, in uniform, it's a great sight.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
United Airlines is reaching an agreement with its workers union on a new contract. It is a 2-year deal, raising wages for 30,000 ground workers. Now, according to the International Association of Machinists, the contract includes the industry best wages along with better job security, and the union, they just need to ratify the deal.
And making the world a better place starts with improving our own communities. It's what New Era Detroit has done for a decade.
They're making a lot of magic happen. So recently, I spoke with the founder, Zeke Williams, about the national recognition that they're getting for protecting women and Black-owned businesses. So instead of sitting down in a studio or building, we took this conversation on the road, and we want you to take a look. First and foremost, congratulations on all the work that New Era Detroit has been doing lately. Because I see you guys, you're popping up on social media, but you guys have been doing this for quite a while. So how did New Era Detroit get its start?
Man, we just, we started back in 2014. Just wanted to do something in the community, be more visible. It was really a call out for men to get more involved in the community. And here we are here today in 2023, one of the fastest growing all Black organizations in the country.
I know that you guys really got a lot of recognition for the work that you're doing, just to make sure there's not another Tracy Golden. This woman was a mom. Did it hit any different when you found out about what happened to her?
Well, man, I've been doing this work for a long time in our community, and we should be able to do more about protecting innocent people. Public safety is a real thing. Seeing what happened to a good sister, Tracy, even sparked us a bit more because that was just completely unacceptable. And, I keep, every time I see that footage, it's just like, if somebody was there, could that have been a different outcome? Would she would have been able to go home to her family? And it's just like, once again, it's a call out to Black men in our community to get more involved, be more visible. You
got almost 9 years coming up. What does the next 9 years look like, and and what does New Era look like beyond that?
You know, our goal is to be in every black community, you know, worldwide, not just nationwide. We really developed the black print for day-to-day organization. If you want to see our communities change, we got to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to make it a lifestyle, man. And that's what New Era is. That's what the black print is.
I think this is this spot here. But yeah, man, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man, thank you. All right, so we can get the full version of that story. So it's like a 5-minute story. That is on our website, FOXSOULDetroit.com. We want to thank Zeke for doing that. Look, man, it was a great experience just sitting down with him and having these conversations. And we were just driving and just talking about life. Yeah. And you know, he talks about how he was involved in basketball, he was involved in music, and then he realized, you know, those weren't the paths that he wanted to take. He ended up in community involvement, being a community activist, and you can see just over the past decade how far it has led him. And so I'm proud of Zeke and what he has done with New Era Detroit. They have several other New Era chapters all across the country. You can look them up on Instagram, and they are really, you know, we talk about, you know, people making change in our own neighborhoods. They're really, you know, walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah, and I follow them on across social media, in particular Instagram, and citizens really do feel safer with them out there. I know right now, you know, I don't know if I'd go get gas at night. I don't know if I'd go to what we call them party stores or just corner stores. I don't know if I'd go there. Our home is in a nice neighborhood, but you know, everybody is dealing with something. Right. You know, pulling up into the garage. You know, and you know, you just have those thoughts. And so with them being out there and the way they're armed.
Yeah, it's a little jarring to see at first.
It is.
But then you realize where they come from.
I get it.
And then it gives you peace of mind.
I'm sure they're hoping not to have to use it, but it's the intimidation factor maybe. Right. But I know a lot of folks feel much safer with them out there. We appreciate them. That was a great story. And those great camera angles there. You got real fancy.
It's not me. I got to thank our crew, our Fox 2 photojournalists for making us look good each and every day.
They look fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
All right, so up next, the making of the movie Air movie from one of the actors themselves.
Yep, we'll show you what Chris Tucker had to say about being in the iconic film. We'll talk more about that on the way. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Welcome back to the conversation right here on Fox Soul's Black Report. Actor and comedian Chris Tucker is one of the many stars in the new movie Air.
Yeah, so our friends at Fox Atlanta, they spoke to him about the movie and tells the birth of this popular shoe brand.
The Nike swoosh emblem is seen throughout every major sport, but believe it or not, there was a time where it wasn't popular.
Back in the '84, it was all about Adidas, you know, breakdancing and shell-toe shoes and fat shoestrings and Pumas. Nike wasn't cool. It was for people who jog.
In fact, Magic Johnson turned down a deal with the brand back in the 80s, but there was one superstar who did not, Michael Jordan.
A black man owning some of his shoe, owning his own destiny, creating a brand back in the day before we even thought about that. You know, nowadays everybody on social media trying to create a brand. So it means so much.
Jordan Brand is a huge part of society today, and not just in sports, but also fashion, hip hop, and more.
But it means a lot to the culture because it became cool. Nike became cool when Michael signed there. They started created his own shoe. They had these different colors, and then he had jogging. I remember Jordan jogging suit with his image on the suit and all to compete with Adidas.
Chris Tucker stars as Howard White, the now vice president of Jordan Brand. The actor says he knows Howard well, and even though his role in the film is minor, he made sure to study up on his friend.
So he had me talking to people when he was 5 years old. He used to childhood friends, riding bikes in the street with, from teachers, from principals to high school coaches. And to Charles Barkley.
Although the film is more on the story of how MJ's brand came to be, he still had a hand in telling the story.
Ben said he wouldn't even done the movie if it wasn't for Michael's blessings, and then also he brought in a great component with Viola Davis. He wanted Viola Davis to play his mama, and he wanted Howard White to be in the movie, which my part wasn't even in the movie. I had to write all my parts, but through all the research for Howard White, that was the only way I was able to do that.
The film also stars Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, Marlon Wayans, and more. Tune in to find out how his airness helped create the soul of Nike.
Oh, wow.
Really looking forward to seeing that movie.
That sounds like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially with the number of people that are in that movie.
Yeah.
Viola Davis, Chris Tucker, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. Any movie that Ben Affleck directs has been, he's always knocked it out of the park. But this one in particular, because, when you grow up in that era and you see Nike evolving to what it's become now, you really want to see the story behind it.
Yeah, and it's good to see Chris Tucker back in front of the
Yeah.
camera. I don't know how comedic this role will be.
Right. He's not Smokey anymore.
I know
he's a long way from Smokey. He's a long way from Rush Hour.
Come on now.
Yeah.
But I know he'll put some stank on it and might have a couple of laughs here and there, but it's good to see him. And like a lot of these actors and comedians from my particular era, I think we still look good. Chris Tucker looks fantastic.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah.
It's always good to see him in whatever movie he does.
Yeah.
I think one of the last movies I saw him was Silver Linings Playbook, which it was a dramatic role, but he really did a great job with it.
Yeah. 50 plus club.
All right. Hey, represent. All right, so up next, our favorite segment. We're going to show some Black excellence.
We love it. We'll show you how the long-standing sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the first and the finest, is continuing to make changes to help our community. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Hey. All right, so let's salute Black excellence.
Yeah.
And let's talk about some sorority that is near and dear to your heart.
That is my heart. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Take a look at their rich history and legacy of service.
100 years is significant no matter what you're talking about. This billboard is actually celebrating the first sorority graduate chapter for Black women in Georgia. It's Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated's Kappa Omega chapter, celebrating a century of service.
1923 in Atlanta was a difficult time for African Americans. There was segregation, lynchings, Jim Crow laws. Atlanta's most famous son, civil rights icon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had not yet been born. Despite it all, 10 courageous college-educated women started the Kappa Omega graduate chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. 100 years later, Bridget Grant is the current president.
And now to be able to celebrate Kappa Omega's 100, knowing all the things that, all the odds that they had to beat in order for us to be here.
Atlantan Marie Woolfolk Taylor had been one of the 16 young women who founded the nation's first Black sorority in America on Howard University's campus in Washington, D.C. Taylor, who was a social worker, came back home to expand the sisterhood in Atlanta.
Marie Woolfolk Taylor was a member of the First Congregational Church that was established in 1908. She was a lady of class. She knew how to deal with people. She was a great missionary.
The sorority's cornerstones are service and sisterhood. This donation drive is called Pretty Packs. Members, who normally don pink and green, are dressed in red to support Heart Health Month. The chapter assembled 1,200 packages of toiletries for Atlanta public school girls in need. Members say it's all about giving back.
A real Alpha Kappa Alpha woman leaves an impact in her neighborhood. She gives of herself. She gives of her time, her talent, and her money.
The Ivy Community Foundation, which is our philanthropic arm, owns its own building. and has elevated the Atlanta community by awarding tens of thousands of dollars in college scholarships through several programs, including a very successful debutante cotillion. Other initiatives address literacy, education, economics, social justice, voter registration, and environmental sustainability. With a national membership of more than 355,000 women, perhaps the most well-known member is Vice President Kamala Harris. But in the Kappa Omega chapter, member Mary Frances Early, who is the first African American to graduate from the University of Georgia, is a trailblazer. And we can't forget Diamond member Anita Carson, who has served with distinction for 75 years and is 94 years old.
Yes, but there's so much excitement.
As Kappa Omega celebrates this historic milestone, the chapter boasts more than 500 members and vows to continue serving and impacting the community.
We have women today that are in all kinds of fields that are making wonderful impacts. You will not find us on the sidelines. We're in the front of everything.
I would like to see our level of service explode across Metro Atlanta. If you need hands, we are there. We are here to serve the community that we live in, and that's our goal.
The chapter will begin the centennial celebration with a gesture of respect and gratitude by laying a wreath at founder Marie Woolfolk Taylor's grave here in historic Oakland Cemetery. In Southeast Atlanta, Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
All right, so look, I know that you're proud
Yes.
of these sisters. You're proud, so are anyway.
Yes.
But when you see that this is one of those sororities and organizations that continues to blaze trails with Kamala Harris as vice president and so many other women that are doing
Ava
so many
DuVernay,
great things. Courtney
Gladys
Hicks.
Knight.
Yeah, you know, Courtney Hicks. But just being a member of this organization, I know that there's so many, and you meet them all over the country, but when you see their vision become reality, especially in this day and age, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's just an honor to be a part of such a rich legacy. And when I think about those women, our founders, we call them pearls, they were just, college age. We're talking about what, late teens, maybe early 20s, to have the forethought to gather and to put an effort, something like this together. And then to have the foresight to then incorporate it, to protect its integrity and its uniqueness is just absolutely awesome. And we're into 115 years of that legacy of service. And I'm just grateful and humbled and honored to be a part of the sisterhood, to be a part of the Divine Nine. It is definitely a unique experience. And I even have girlfriends who came over in the Alpha chapter right there at Howard. And that rich legacy that started back in 1908. And it's just an honor to see and meet so many. You could be in the dollar store and be like, you see that pink and green, you know what's up. And it's just a hug, it's a hello, it's beautiful.
What is crazy is that in the span of 115 years, you've gone from the colleges to the anchor desk to the second highest office in the land. There's no telling what can happen over the next 115 years.
But
I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You say your mom's a part of the Divine Nine.
My mom is a part of the Divine Nine. She's Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay.
But she has two good friends, and Sandra and Sandra, both are AKAs. So, the Divine Nine runs in our blood, in our family. So.
Yeah, my husband's a Kappa.
Yeah.
His mom, AKA, his dad, a Q, his son, an Alpha.
That's a true legacy right there.
His aunt,
They're covering
Zeta.
all the Divine Nine right there, yeah.
His sister-in-law, a Delta.
Yeah.
So, it just goes on and on and on. And so, listen, sometimes it's not for everybody, but for those who choose to be a part and walk that life, it's a beautiful walk, and there's a lot of good that comes out of it. And, these organizations are here to stay.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's always funny because whenever my mom comes to visit, she tries to recruit my daughter, who's only 3 years old. I say, hey, you're going to be a Delta, you're going to be a Delta. So I hope that she is a Delta, because I don't know if my mom's heart could take it
if
she joined another sorority. But the Divine Nine, it's all love anyway.
Yeah, it really, really is. We have enjoyed having you, honey, as always.
Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank
It's time
you.
for you to go take a nap. You've been on this Superman marathon thing going on.
I go to my other job, which is taking care of a whole bunch of kids in the family.
Yeah,
so,
wow,
yeah.
super dad too. In case you missed it, this is a father of 3, and they're all under the age of 4. His wife is a super duper anchor here in the Detroit area as well. So I don't know how y'all do it, but
Community.
it's amazing. That village,
our
huh?
Community. It's a village. It takes a village.
For the full rundown on today's stories featuring Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and more, you can access FOXSOUL's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other content. Don't forget, Soulmates, we need you to download that FOXSOUL app. It's free, and that's going to keep you in the know as to what's happening here on FOXSOUL's Black Report. We appreciate you joining us for sure.
Yeah. So we're heading into Easter weekend. Do you have any plans?
It's just spending time with family.
Yeah.
We just took a major hit a couple of weeks ago with the tragic loss of my grandmother and uncle in an early morning house fire. So we're gonna lay low and just enjoy each other's company and really take in how our holidays are now shifted without our matriarch. And try to just sometimes you just can't understand it. You just have to survive it.
Right.
And you make those adjustments a little bit by little bit, and through it all, you just got to continue to breathe.
We'll continue to pray for you.
Thank you so much.
Pray for patience.
And thanks for your help too in the clutch.
Yeah. So no, that's the thing about holidays, though. I think sometimes, not every holiday has to be grand and grandiose. Sometimes those good holidays, the ones that you remember most, are just sitting around and having those conversations.
It's the memories. It's family. It's the nucleus, and that's what we really got to get back to. That's going to save the block, save the hood, save the village.
Yeah.
Is sticking with family.
Very much so.
Yeah. So whatever you soulmates plan to do for Easter, just make sure it's a good one, and remember to cherish the ones you love the most. I'm Courtney Hicks.
I'm Brandon Hudson.
Thanks so much for watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. We will see you soon. We appreciate you, and stay safe.